Novel Navigator. Chapter 191, Art of the Herbology. The mushroom cloud rose high into the sky, and its surroundings were engulfed in a fiery inferno. Below the mushroom cloud, somewhere in the forest, a cocoon made out of beautiful wings unfurled, revealing injured and bloody Adam, who was barely conscious. "Minor healing," he whispered, and his bleeding stopped, but there was still some internal bleeding. Without further ado, he took out the flask of the rising moon and gulped it all down. It helped his organs to heal, and his health began to recover as well. After selling the legendary dagger in the auction, he earned 120,000 shine coins. Most of that went to Z package payments, but he also purchased the healing flasks and even armor for himself. The armor wrapped around his body like a warm, protective shield. It looked quite pretty with its silver designs etched into the metal. It had silver images of bulls and stars. Then there was also a matching helmet that completed the look. The helmet looked fierce and intimidating, with horns protruding on either side. It looked like the head of a bull. It was called Silver Bull Armor. While its rank was Azure Rare, like the Crimson Hound armor, it gave off better protection and had a special attribute of magic defense that blocked any magic attack below level 2. While it was pretty useless in the upcoming fight against Renard, it could protect him from some fatal blows. Adam rose back to his feet, heavily breathing. The heavy aura of Renard was suffocating and intimidating, removing all the fighting spirit left in him, but this wasn't the first time he was fighting a losing battle. There was no way he would be able to defeat Renard in frontal combat. Even if he was fighting as his past life self, he still would be unable to win against Renard. It didn't matter that Renard was past his prime and had lost a step or two, he was still a formidable opponent that perhaps he could defeat in another 10 years. Unfortunately, he didn't have another 10 years to wait. The wings flapped and took him to the skies. As soon as he revealed himself, the dark clouds started raging with thunder and lightning. "You survived that, hey?" Renard grinned smugly while the lightning bolts stabbed the ground around him. Boom, 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 boom. Crackle. "You need to try harder if you want to kill me," Adam said calmly. "Haha, I didn't expect S-rankers to die that easily." Renard licked his lips and grabbed one of the lightning bolts as if it were nothing. "But I do love a challenge." Adam reached out towards his inventory, then brought out 3 empty flasks and dozens of poisonous ingredients. Then, with lightning-fast hands, he mixed them into 2 of the flasks before pouting both into the middle flask. The middle flask started to emit poisonous haze. "Die!" Renard grinned and flew at Adam with the lightning bolt in hand. The poison haze. Adam spilled the poison in front of him that created a wall of toxic gas. It was poisonous enough to kill any ordinary human who inhaled it for more than a few seconds. Yet Renard didn't care as he flew straight through it and stabbed the lightning bolt through Adam's chest armor and through his body. Cough. Adam coughed out blood and was sent flying hundreds of meters, a burning hole in his chest. N/O/vel/b/jn.c//om. While flying backwards, he quickly took out another flask of the rising moon and gulped it down. It helped him to heal some of his burned organs, but it didn't completely heal his drastic injuries. Therefore, he took out another one of the same flask and gulped it down as well. He didn't have an unlimited amount of those flasks, but if he didn't use those now, he would just die. Renard used his skill airwalk to move across the air uninterrupted. The poison was quickly spreading through his veins, but he then gulped down a poison antidote and felt immediate relief. While Adam was using Bertha's knowledge to fight against Renard, he had some antidotes to counter that, which Bertha made for Renard just in case he ever needed them. Bertha never thought that one day her pupil would be fighting against her lover. "Is that all your trickery worth?" Renard asked with a scoff as he approached Adam. Again, as fast as possible, Adam took out 3 of his flasks, mixed up the poison in them before pouring them into the middle flask. He even used the little god's physical enhancement to move quickly. Usually, if one rushed to make these potions, it would turn bad, but Adam did it perfectly each time. While Bertha did teach him, he had also used these poison flasks in a previous life. Lisa, the herbology master of their group, taught him how to properly handle the ingredients and the timing of each step in the process. She created her own kind of fighting style art of the herbology which used the herbology knowledge in the fight. It wasn't uncommon to see Lisa create dozens of poison potions in the heat of combat. She learned to use Kyryoko to dodge all the attacks while creating those potions. It made her quite a strange opponent to fight against. While Adam was nowhere at her level, he also learned the art of the herbology. However, it was sour memories, as when he thought about it, they must have made Lisa to make Chaos Being Essence, which was difficult poison to make, to poison Adam and weaken him so he couldn't do anything. As Renard approached him, he again spilled the poison in front of him and created a wall of toxic gas. This time, however, Renard jumped over the poisonous mist and kicked Adam down to the ground. However, before slamming against the ground, the wings carried Adam back to the air and made some distance to Renard. While his attack was unsuccessful, the corners of Adam's mouth curled into a slight smile. He doesn't have any antidotes left. He came to that conclusion because Renard was arrogant and cocky. He wouldn't willingly dodge any of his attacks, as he believed that Adam was inferior being compared to him. At the first toxic gas wall, Renard went straight through it even though he could definitely tell it was poisonous. After all, he watched Adam mix the poison right in front of his eyes. Adam did that on purpose to see whether he had any ways to counter the poison. That's one weakness, poison. Now, how can I use it against him? Behind his back, he mixed a few poison potions to use as sort of bombs and then stored them inside his inventory. Renard, since he was far enough, couldn't see what he was doing. What to do? Adam frowned. In a dimly lit gym, Terry lifted weights, sweat flying off his body after each rep. Since he didn't feel like sleeping, he came to the gym to lift some weights. He had been thinking about the conversation that happened today. It seemed like everyone was about to leave the Elder Tree Institute, even Adam, whom he thought would stay longer. He felt like he was about to be left behind. I need to be ready for the tutorial. I can't fail. Terry gritted his teeth and did another rep. At the same moment, the door of the gym creaked open, and a figure stood by the doorway, watching him with a cold look on his eyes. It was Ryan. Chapter 192, Creator's Orders. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions rang throughout the sky above the forest.n/o/vel/b/jn.c//om. Currently in the Elder Tree Institute, watching from a window of the highest floor, Mr. Caretaker had a look of worry in his face. The door behind him then opened, and Bertha, still half awake, walked over to him and looked out of the window towards the forest. Is that Renard fighting? Bertha asked. She wondered where he went as he was supposed to come to the bed, but then he apparently had a meeting, and he ended up never returning. Yes. Mr. Caretaker said. However, I don't know who he is fighting. It rumbled above the dark clouds so loudly that even the windows shook, and the lightning illuminated the room in sporadic bursts. His opponent feels familiar. Bertha said. She wasn't that good with Kyryoko, but she could tell that the person's aura felt familiar. Mr. Caretaker frowned. Adam flew backwards through the layer of the dark clouds and was consumed by the raging storm. The wings carried him through the tempest, and he arrived above the clouds, his face bloodied like someone had spilled paint all over his face. The armor was cracked from the chest because of the lightning bolt attack. Its durability had already decreased by over half. Then, Renard blasted through the dark clouds with a large grin on his face and smashed his fist into the chest armor. Crack! The armor and the ribcage cracked on impact, and Adam was again forced to fly backwards with blood flying out of his mouth. It was starting to get hard for him to breathe. The wings spread and stopped his momentum in the air. Arg! Adam coughed in pain. I don't know how much more of this I can take. The health bar was blinking in red as he had lost more than 90% of his total health. Crackle! With lightning bolt in hand, Renard appeared above him like a deity and then smashed the lightning down upon Adam, engulfing him in the sea of the silver lightning. Arg! Adam cried out in pain as his body convulsed from the shock. His health bar dropped even further. With his quick hands, he gulped down 2 flasks of the rising moon and then whispered minor healing under his breath. It had some effect, but a few more of those attacks would bring him back to the brink of death. Heal yourself more, I don't care. Renard said with a grin. I'll just hurt you more. Adam's eyes widened in shock. Then, with speed that surpassed his own, Renard appeared in front of him and smashed his fist through the armor like it was made out of some second-grade material. Crack! The armor shattered as it reached 0 durability. And like that, the armor Adam spent a sizable sum of money on was completely destroyed. It couldn't handle 3 hits from Renard. Without the armor as protection anymore, Adam fell back to the ground and smashed through the weakened ground beneath him. He fell into dark depths below. Hey, Terry! Ryan knocked twice on the gym door. What are you doing here? Oh, Ryan! Terry, surprised to see him, put the lifts back into place with a loud clang. Late night training, why are you here? I also thought about lifting some weights. Ryan said and approached him while rubbing his shoulders. I didn't feel like sleeping. Really? Terry raised an eyebrow. Weird, I thought Ryan wasn't that big of a fan of the gyms and instead liked to do sports as a hobby. Adam's not with you? Ryan asked. He is usually doing gym with you, is he not? I didn't want to wake him up. Terry said. We need him well rested for tomorrow, either way. True that. Ryan picked up one of the dumbbells and started curling it with one arm. Do you hear that? Terry raised an eyebrow and perked up his ears. There was some faint rumbling coming from somewhere. Yeah, it must be storming outside, why? Terry asked curiously and wiped his sweat with a towel. Each rumble is a sign that the job isn't finished yet. Ryan said and then smiled. What a tough son of a bitch, he is. What are you talking about? I am talking about Adam. Ryan shook his head with a smile. He is fighting against that monster, yet he is still surviving, like a cockroach refusing to die. Terry's frown deepened, and he slowly rose from his seat. What are you saying? He asked with a frown. Adam is fighting? Against who? Against Renard, of course. Ryan turned to him with a grin and dropped the dumbbell with a loud clang. I should have killed Adam 5 months ago when I still had a chance, but he has grown too much, so I had to make someone else do it for me. What are you saying? Terry asked, his eyes wide with shock. What have you done? It's just you and Adam left. Ryan said with a smile. You killed Roberto and Glenn? Terry asked, his hands clenching into tight fists. A part of me did, yes. Ryan said with a smirk. Look behind you. Terry spun his head around, and to his surprise, there was a masked figure in all black standing with a large knife in hand. Who the hell? Terry flinched and retreated away from him. A friend of mine. Ryan approached Terry from the back and grabbed him by the shoulder. I am the killer, you see. I killed those people while back, now I killed Brady, Roberto, and Glenn. Terry's eyes widened in shock. You must be wondering how I didn't get caught. Ryan smirked and pointed at the masked figure. Take off the mask, my friend. The masked figure removed his ordinary ski mask, and a face that was completely identical with Ryan appeared. A same face. Terry whispered. I've had to be on 2 places at the same time to do some murders and that's exactly what I did. Ryan grinned. I made a clone of myself. How? Terry asked in shock. You haven't taken the tutorial, so how? Isn't this a skill of some kind? It's indeed a skill. Ryan said with a smile. How did I make a clone? It's quite interesting, actually. Too bad you're too dead to know. Terry reflexively elbowed him in the chest and escaped from him, but then the large knife came from behind him, piercing through his back, slightly below the shoulder blade. NGH. Ryan touched his painful chest with a grin. No one is here to save you anymore. You were lucky with the culling, weren't you? Let's see if you are lucky enough to survive us. Terry forcefully pushed the knife out of his bat and retreated further back, his back colliding with the back wall. With a single stab, his health was reduced nearly 50%. I don't understand why he would want to kill me. Terry thought with a pale face. I've never done anything to him. It's unfair, isn't it? Ryan asked as he and his second self approached him. Why you? You must be thinking. It's not your fault, it's Adam's fault. What are you talking about? Terry asked. I was given a glorious mission. Ryan said. From my creator, to kill those that may seem like a problem in the future. If you had stayed as your pathetic self from 5 months ago, you would have been spared. Unfortunately, Adam had to reveal your hidden talent. The second Ryan said. You might not feel like it, but you're indeed a genius. A genius in disguise. That's why you killed them as well? Terry asked with a painful expression. That's right. Ryan said. I am here to cull the talented. It was my creator's orders, and I must obey them. His creators? Terry asked with a frown. Something sinister is at play here. Chapter 193, Realm Between. The warm blood touched his skin, making him warm and uncomfortable. Adam's eyes fluttered slightly open, and with a hazy vision, he saw a hole in the ceiling and he felt the soft, dirt ground beneath his back. Hey, are you about to die? Adam asked, confused. When he looked over to the side, he saw a silver-dressed woman crouching next to him. Her face looked obscure as it was hidden by a veil, and her silver hair flowed gracefully over her shoulders like a waterfall. Who? Are you about to die? She asked again with a voice that continued to echo in his mind long after those words escaped her soft lips. I guess. Adam replied with a rough voice. I am in pain. Want me to take away the pain? She asked. If you can. Adam said with a sense of desperation and hope in his voice. I'll take it away eternally. She reached out her hand towards his head. Snap out of it. A shout came and halted her movements. It sounded like Palestar. Palestar. Adam frowned and fluttered his eyes open. How are you in here? You fool, you're at the realm between, where the boundaries between life and death are blurred. Palestar's voice echoed throughout his ear. Adam's eyes widened further. Why am I here and how? Because you're about to die. Palestar shouted. That bitch next to you summoned you here. It's because my presence is bringing forth more godly beings to you. Who is she? Adam asked as he looked over to the veiled, silver-haired woman. Mistress Death. Palestar said. A hateful bitch. Don't listen to him, her sweet voice echoed through his mind. He doesn't know the sweet bliss of the death. He only knows the fear of it. She summoned you here to trick you into death. Palestar said. Because she knows that it will bring death to me. You're still alive, very much alive, just refuse her offer. You can be with me forever, if you desire it. She said and moved her pale, cold hand across Adam's chest, leaving a trail of frost in its wake. You won't regret it, I promise. Adam felt very comfortable, like he was sleeping in a bed made out of clouds with the beautiful Mistress Death lying next to him, whispering sweet nothings in his ear. Adam, for fuck's sake! Palestar screamed. Are you really this weak-hearted? Ugh! Adam opened his eyes. I just needed a short rest. Calm down. Hey! The mistress Death looked surprised as her seductive spell broke apart. Adam pushed her aside and sat up, the bed made out of clouds disappearing into thin air. I refuse your offer, he said. Let me return to the land of the living. She looked at him softly and touched his shoulder. Very well. If you find the land of the living too harsh, you always have a spot beside me. With that, he left the realm between and found himself at the strange underground cave, the hole in the ceiling revealing a glimpse of the stormy night sky above. It was raining as well, the sound of thunder echoing through the cave walls. Adam reached out to his inventory and grabbed his last flask of the rising moon. Without hesitation, he gulped it down, and his health nearly reached full once again. The flask dropped on the dirt ground and shattered. He still had some flasks of the setting sun, but that was only useful to heal separated limbs, not replenish health. At that moment, the whole underground cave shook as the ceiling above crumbled apart because of a few lightning strikes, and from there, Renard came down, stepping on the air as if it were solid ground. Still alive? Tough Sinovovich, aren't you? Renard laughed, but again, not a single sound escaped his lips. Adam struggled a bit, but eventually he stood up and faced Renard with a determined look in his eyes. If I died that easily, it would be pretty disappointing, wouldn't it? Humph. Renard landed on the ground and frowned after seeing his boots turn dirty. Ha! Adam breathed heavily and wiped the blood from his lips. I am saddened, truly. Renard said. You, as my right-hand man. We could have become something great together. You've only a few years left, either way. Adam said. The new world can't be taken over in just a few years. It sucks truly. Renard said. I was born in the wrong era. When the Mortal Online was released, I was already in my 40s. Every year, it started to become harder to advance. I had to work twice as hard as my younger peers. N/O/vel/b//in.c//om. You're lucky. You have 30 to 40 years ahead of you. Renard said. I could have taught you. In a few years, you could have become the new headmaster and led the future of the pro-strong faction. I was always a bad student. Adam said. You couldn't have taught me. You're a stupid student. Renard said, and his hand turned into the head of a spear. You chose death instead of a glorious future. That I am. Adam raised his hand and then showed a middle finger to Renard. I am also a very rude student. With a long lunge, Renard rushed at him, his hand looking like the head of the spear, and then he stabbed his hand forward. The hand pierced through Adam's body like a real spear. Hand spear, Renard said as he watched Adam cough blood and cry out in pain. However, immediately after, a confused frown appeared on his face, as it didn't really feel like he had stabbed through a living person. Just as he expected, the person in front of him shattered like a mirror. It was an illusion. Behind him, hands wrapped around his mouth, both hands holding 2 flasks of poison, and then poured the poison down Renard's mouth. There was nothing he could do in time to stop it from happening. If he had a higher level of Kiryoku, perhaps, but he had spent the majority of his time with magic. Thus, he was one of the strongest magicians in the New World, but was very average. With Kiryoku. Turning around, Renard stabbed his hand through Adam's body again. Hand spear. Cough. Adam coughed out blood. This time, the hand spear struck the real body. Die! Renard screamed, but then everything started to turn hazy as the poison traversed through his veins and into his heart. If that happened to an ordinary person, they would already be dead, but Renard only became dizzy and slightly lightheaded. At that moment, Adam placed his hand at Renard's chest and shouted, Chi strike! The Chi strike ignored Renard's hidden chest armor and struck deep into his heart, causing excruciating pain. It made his heart stop for a moment, but then Renard screamed so loud that wind ceased and summoned a bolt of lightning from the sky. The lightning struck Renard and sent Adam flying backwards with a jolt of electricity. The shock of the lightning made Renard's heart beat again. To reach his current level, Renard was a genius of his own right. A genius of combat. If he wasn't, he would have died a long time ago, as because of his arrogant nature, he'd made plenty of enemies. However, he had always been able to be the last one standing. Chapter 194, Clone. Smack. Terry slid across the ground, his face contorted in pain. A bruise spread across his forearms as he tried to block a kick from Ryan, but to no avail. That's crazy strength, Terry thought in a panic. Is he really coin feeder like me? Ryan, with a grin on his face, approached him and started throwing straight punches and low kicks with lightning speed. Struggling to keep up, Terry just backed off constantly like a scared rabbit. Is this all I can do? Terry thought in anger. Run away. What happens when I take the tutorial? Will I keep running away there as well? Ryan stepped forward, and then, using the flexibility of his waist, he sprang forward with a powerful punch. No! Terry shouted inside his mind, dodged the punch, and grabbed it by the wrist. Ryan scoffed and ripped his hand out of Terry's grip. I ain't running away. Terry swung his fist and landed a punch across Ryan's face, knocking him a few steps back. Ack! Ryan's gaze turned deadly as he wiped the blood from his lip. Swoosh! With a flash of silver, a knife slashed through Terry's forearm and made the crimson blood splatter on the ground. Ah! Terry quickly jumped away, his gaze shifting to the second Ryan, who still had his large knife ready. Give that to me, Ryan said to his twin-looking man. The second Ryan didn't say a word to oppose and handed over the large knife. I'll kill him myself. Ryan twirled the knife around in his hand, and with slow steps, he arrived within the attacking range. As soon as Terry blinked, Ryan jumped forward and swung the knife from back to front. The large knife's big blade sliced through the air with a chilly whoosh, nearing Terry's neck. Terry watched as the large knife of death approached. He could only watch in fear as it came closer and closer. At that moment, dodging was out of the question. If he planned on dodging, the knife would most likely still hit his shoulder and he would lose the last remaining health of his. Thus, there was only one option left. N/O/vel/b/in.c//om. His eyes opened wider and wider, and the pupils dilated like cat eyes. While everyone in the Elder Tree Institute were geniuses in some things they were doing, Terry's talent lay on something more discreet in his eyes. He was very skilled at reading people. Maybe I always knew who the real killer was, Terry thought. I just thought I was wrong. With his left hand, he grabbed the knife-wielding hand by its wrist, stopping the big blade before it could pierce through his head. However, the knife was still nearing his head as he couldn't completely stop the momentum. After all, Terry lacked the required strength to completely stop Ryan. Damn it, stop! Terry screamed inside his mind. He was shocked that after 5 months, day after day in the gym, he still lacked strength compared to Ryan, who hadn't even been training. He is not coin feeder, that's for sure, Terry thought. He must have lied about being coin feeder. The knife eventually came to a stop, but their hands were still trembling as the other tried to push the knife down, and the other tried to push the knife up, away from himself. You're annoying, Ryan shouted while staring at Terry in anger. Stop fighting against the inevitable. You're going to die. No one will come to help you. As soon as he said, the second Ryan came from the side and kicked Terry away like he was nothing but a rag doll. Terry's feet slid backwards, and his back eventually crashed against a shelf that held dumbbells, causing a few of them to fall to the ground and roll away as the metal clangs echoed through the room. Death. It was becoming painfully apparent that the chances of survival were slim to none. Yet Terry didn't get consumed by the despair, and instead he started smiling like a madman. Says who? The inventory window popped out open in front of him, and it was empty without anything there. Except, on the first slot, there was some kind of glass jar with liquid inside. He took it out and held it above his head. "What's that supposed to be?" Ryan asked with a frown. "Very powerful poison," Terry said with a grin. "I didn't know why, at first, but Adam gave me this after you, according to yourself, went to do some real-life stuff." "Why would he do that?" Ryan asked with a frown. "I am good at reading people," Terry said with a sigh. "I should have listened to my gut and told my worries about you to Adam earlier. Maybe we could have stopped you before you did something stupid like this." "Adam knows." Ryan frowned. "That's impossible. I am a clone of acting. No one should have been able to find out." The second Ryan approached Terry without caring about the poison. He didn't seem to care whether he was going to be poisoned or not. "Don't move!" Terry shouted. "If I drop this poison, everyone in this room will die within seconds." However, the second Ryan didn't stop moving and didn't speak a single word. "What the hell is wrong with him?" Terry's eyes showed looks of panic. "Stop!" Ryan's commanding voice sounded. The second Ryan finally came to a stop. "Haha!" Ryan laughed in amusement. "News flash, we don't care about dying if you think that is going to stop us." "What?" Terry stammered, feeling a sense of unease growing in the pit of his stomach. "Why do you think I showed my face in the first place?" Ryan asked with a smirk. "Because this will be the last time this world will see me." "What do you mean?" "I am a clone," Ryan said and looked at his twin. "So is he, but he is even below me, a secondary clone, and he doesn't have his own thoughts or feelings like I do." Terry didn't speak. "I was always going to die," Ryan said and touched the shoulder of his secondary clone. "I'll just finish my job first. I'll need confirmation that Adam is dead before I die. After all, when I die, my memories will be transferred to my creator. So, that's why." Terry looked at the poison and closed his eyes. Then he looked straight into Ryan's eyes and opened his mouth. However, he wasn't going to talk to Ryan, but to whoever was going to receive these memories. "Coward!" Ryan chuckled and took a seat by one of the lifting benches. "Don't be mad. In front of my creator, you're as insignificant as a fly," he said. "I was sent here to keep an eye on possibly talented individuals, but that doesn't mean any of them would have been able to challenge my creator in the future. However, he is worried about Adam. While he wants him to be on his side, he also doesn't trust in him, so he left it to me to decide whether he was going to die or not." "Isn't your creator worried that Adam will find out about his assassination attempt?" Terry asked. "Adam will be a great man in the future. If I were him, I would hide. Adam will never find out who my creator is." "You're his clone, are you not?" Terry asked. "I would guess that you look like him." "Ah, this." Ryan pointed at his face and shook his head. "I look different from my creator." Rumble. At that moment, another rumbling sound reverberated from outside. "He is still alive," Ryan scoffed. "He is fucking stubborn, but it looks like Renard is also growing impatient. Their fight will end soon, and then you'll die, as will I." Chapter 195, Sky and Beyond. "Ha!" Renard's scream shook the walls, and then he started throwing hundreds of punches in a span of a few seconds. Some of the punches were slaps, some were jabs, and the rest were ordinary straight punches. With the little god ability working at full strength, Adam moved his hands with lightning speed, parrying and rebounding the attacks. Smack, smack, smack. Since he had grown stronger, the devouring side effect of the little god wasn't as strong as before, but it was still a struggle to control. However, he couldn't use the little god forever without fearing for the side effect. Especially now. N/O/vel/b/jn.c/om He didn't have any healing flasks left, except for the setting sundae. If Renard didn't kill him, the devouring might if he pushed himself too much. At that moment, one of Renard's punches bypassed his defenses and smashed deep into his chest with a bone-breaking force that knocked the wind out of him. Ah! Adam coughed out blood. His face had turned pale as if all the blood was drained from his body. You think you can fight me in frontal combat? Renard smiled menacingly. The gap between us is bigger than the blind sea. Had. Adam just laughed and then slammed his feet at Renard's chest. Chi strike! The chi strike exploded through Renard's body, and his face twisted in sudden pain. He used his chi strike with his kicks. Renard thought in shock. This wasn't the first time he'd seen someone use chi strike. It wasn't that uncommon of a skill as it had the perfect ability of bypassing all the defenses. It was especially powerful against craft masters, who could clad their entire bodies in craft to protect them from all harm. However, he thought it was only possible to do with hands and not with legs. The wings on Adam's back swung downwards and left deep cuts on Renard's chest and arms. For the first time in a long time, Renard was properly bleeding, and it felt strangely invigorating. Ah, I have forgotten how it feels to be in pain. Renard screamed and slammed his fist into Adam's chest and sent him flying to the ends of the underground cave. With his wings softening the blow, he crashed into the wall but quickly rose back to his feet. He is poisoned, but it doesn't even look like it. Adam thought with an ugly expression. What can I do now? I had a plan, but it's useless now. Renard, his eyes almost glowing, rushed at Adam and started throwing punches that made the air explode. Boom, boom, boom. Within an instant, he put Adam at the back foot, while his punches broke bones, ripped the flesh, and left him gasping for breath. Painful. It was truly painful. Adam was pushed around as if he were a rag doll, unable to defend himself against the relentless assault. He felt like his whole body was about to break apart and collapse at any moment. He'd stopped looking at his health bar as he knew the situation with his body way better than his interface ever could. With bloodied and broken fingers, he tried to parry Renard's relentless punches, but whenever he did, more of his fingers broke as he simply couldn't stop those powerful punches. The blood spewed from his wounds, staining the ground beneath him in a grotesque pool of red. Yet, while he was suffering, Renard became faster and stronger. Each punch of his felt stronger than the last. You've been fighting a rusty version of me for the last hour or so. Renard said with a grin. This is the real me. Suffer, suffer, and suffer more. Bang! Another punch that sounded like a gunshot landed on Adam's arms, and he was thrown back several dozen meters. The flesh around his forearms was bloodied and ripped open, exposing the muscle underneath. It was a hideous sight. It sure is painful, Adam thought while struggling to stand up. I've been using minor healing non-stop, but my mana reserves are almost depleted. Renard didn't give him a second to catch his breath and lurched forward with another attack. Adam shrunk his body behind his arms and braced for the impact. Smack, smack, smack. The punches landed on his forearms, sending shockwaves of pain up his arms. It wasn't only a few punches, but hundreds of punches that seemed to come at him all at once. His arms wanted to break under the force, but Adam didn't allow them. He was using his white craft to somewhat protect his arms, but it didn't seem to work even slightest. For a moment, he wanted to use his wings to shield himself, but he knew he needed to save his wings as those were his last trump card. If Renard exhausted himself, perhaps he could still fly away back to the new world. Based on the strength of these punches, he doubted whether his wings could handle them. Losing his wings would be the end of the fight. He was fine with losing his arms and legs as long as he still had his wings left. At that moment, a punch seemingly came out of nowhere and landed on Adam's jaw, pushing his face to the side and stretching his neck muscles to their limit. It was at that moment that everything turned dark for him. However, immediately after, another punch landed on his chest that woke him back up. Adam, frightened to the core, again hit his body behind his arms while the punches continued to rain down on him. I lost consciousness. Adam gulped. That was almost it. I almost died. Minor healing, minor healing, minor healing. Ignoring his lack of mana reserves, he continued to use his healing spell to somehow keep him alive. A sharp headache assaulted his mind, but he refused to stop. As one of the punches came from front, Adam dodged the fist with a head tilt and, with a coincidence, looked straight towards the open ceiling, towards the sky above. At that moment, a crazy plan formed in his mind. Sky. That's right. Without a moment of hesitation, Adam put Renard under a bear hug, and with a flap of his wings, he flew out of the open ceiling and straight towards the sky. Hands off me! Renard formed a spear hand and stabbed through Adam's chest. Cough. Adam coughed out blood that splattered across Renard's face. NGH, disgusting. Renard shook his head, trying to shake off the blood from his face. Faster, faster, faster. Adam forced his wings to flap harder and faster. To the sky and beyond. Renard screamed and tried to remove the arms from around him. As he grabbed the arms, he broke and shattered the bones within them. After doing so, he thought that Adam's grip would loosen, but the opposite happened, and his grip only tightened further. Where the hell are you taking me? Renard asked in anger. Let me go, fool. Adam just coughed blood and used his minor healing without stopping even for a moment. The mana reserves were already depleted, and he was using the backup reserves, but that was just enough to help him stay conscious for a few more seconds. A few more seconds is all I need. Adam flew through the dark clouds and flew straight towards the stars above. Don't tell me he is trying that. Renard's eyes widened in shock. Madman. Chapter 196, Emptiness of Space. The starry sky started to become closer. Like a shooting star, the beautiful wings carried Adam and Renard further into the sky. It was becoming very windy and cold as they ascended higher and higher. Slowly, a layer of frost started to spread across the tips of Adam's wings. You think you can survive longer than me here? Renard asked in anger. This is a worthless attempt. You'll freeze over way faster than I do. You think so? Adam grinned widely and opened his mouth wide. Ice breath. A breath of cold air swept out of his mouth and froze Renard's eyebrows and solidified his hair strands into icy spikes. Enough, lightning blast. After Renard's roar, a lightning bolt shot out from the clouds under them and struck both of them, engulfing them in a sea of electrifying energy. Ah! Adam's flesh burned as the electricity coursed through his body, leaving him paralyzed and in excruciating pain. His grip on Renard loosened. It's loose. Renard wanted to escape, but then the grip returned and squeezed him tighter than ever before. You aren't escaping, bastard! Adam screamed, his voice filled with rage and desperation. How did he shrug off the state of paralysis so quickly? Renard wondered in shock. The wings sprouted from Adam's back, unfurling to their full span. Flap, 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 flap. They rose higher and higher into the sky. The ground below looked small and insignificant. N/O/vel/b//in.c//om. They were already flying above the enormous elder tree, with its enormous branches spreading around them like a protective canopy. It was turning so cold that their bodies started to freeze all over. With a few more flaps of the wings, it began hard to breathe, and his wings froze all over into blocks of ice. The blood on Adam's arms dried up into a dark, icy crust, and his fingers turned stiff and numb. With that, his grip on Renard loosened, and both of them started to fly away from each other, but they weren't falling, they were ascending slowly. I have to get out of here. Renard thought, still having the ability to move his limbs. He wanted to use his airwalk to escape this world of coldness, but he couldn't. Why? Why is my skill not working? Renard thought in shock. Seeing that, Adam just smiled and thought. The system's powers don't work outside the world. When Renard looked down, the world looked amazing. It was like one big bubble with the enormous tree at the center. However, the world didn't look as big as he expected. This world was just the 25th floor, nothing else. All the dungeon floors are separate dimensions. Adam thought and turned around to look at the space. There were around 100 other bubbles floating in the space away from each other. At the center of all of this was a giant bubble. It was the main world of Mortal Online, the new world. There hadn't been many players able to see this sight with their own eyes. Please. Renard tried to crawl himself back to the bubble where they came from, but he continued floating further away, the cold spreading through his body. No. At that moment, Renard remembered something. He still had his master floor orb. As long as he used it, he could teleport wherever he wanted on that floor. Yes. With his cold, stiff fingers, he took it out and thought about his office. However, nothing happened. We're not on the 25th floor anymore. Adam thought as he watched him float away. Thus, the floor orb does not work. While Renard couldn't use any of his skills, the wings on Adam's back were still there. With a few difficult flaps, the wings pushed him down to the bubble, and then he started falling towards the ground. Since they were frozen, those wings couldn't carry him anymore. How can he still use his wings? Renard asked as he saw Adam fall back to the bubble. Is it because those are part of innate skills? That's unfair, that's bullshit. Yet, no matter how much he cried, it didn't change the fact that he was dying. At that moment, he couldn't breathe anymore as he had finally reached the exosphere, and his face froze all over as he gazed at the vast expanse of space before him. With that, frozen Renard floated away from the bubble and into the emptiness of space. Swoosh, swoosh. The wind rushed around him as Adam continued falling like a comet towards the ground. He had his eyes closed, as if he had already forfeited himself to his fate. Past the elder tree's branches, through the dark clouds, the ground quickly approached him. Like the eventual death. Adam's eyes slowly opened, and his eyes showed panic. As he turned his head around with great difficulty, he saw the ground nearing. No. He pulled out his sword and cut through his frozen wings. His frozen wings shattered, and on his back, 8 broken bones were exposed, piercing through his skin. Those were the bones of the wings. From his inventory, he took out the flask of the setting sun and gulped it down all in one go. With that, new, beautiful wings emerged from his backs, unfrozen and perfect. Those wings caught him and slowed down his fall, but his feet still hit the ground hard. He rolled on the ground for a short moment before he came to a stop, panting heavily and feeling the pain in his bruised body. There was not a single spot in his body that wasn't either bruised or bloodied. How much health left? With a whisper, the interface opened up in front of him. HP, 3/900. After seeing that, he panicked slightly, and he began to check out his wounds to see if he was bleeding from anywhere, but his minor healing had healed the most. Thus, he wasn't in danger of losing any more health. Unfortunately, since he didn't kill Renard directly, he didn't receive any experience points. From that, but still, he was happy and even let out a few laughs. If this feat came known, his status would rise significantly, as this feat was even crazier than his victory against Grandeur. This was a proper death match, and it was against a person that was former Grand Lord. While he had grown slightly weaker than in his glory days, it was still an amazing feat. Crack! At that moment, a sound of a twig breaking came from behind him. He turned around to the dark forest and didn't see anyone, but to his shock, there was a flask of the rising moon on the ground, some footsteps leading away from it. Someone was watching. Adam thought in shock and picked up the flask. That person left me this. Why? Who was watching? He turned to look at the forest around him, searching for any sign of who could have left the flask. Walking down the forest, a blonde-haired man lit up a cigarette between his lips and took a long puff. What a monster, Kyle thought out loud. Lady Yu, this man is dangerous. The safety of Lady Yu was his utmost priority, and currently he had a feeling that if he kept keeping an eye on Adam, his life would be in danger. He was afraid. There weren't many assassins stronger than him. He had reached very respected royal prince rank, yet he was afraid of this rookie mercenary. I was about to help him, but to think that he would do that. Kyle looked over to the sky. Rest in peace, Renard. Chapter 197 Words to the Creator. Ah, no sound. Ryan put his hand over his left ear and didn't hear the rumbling anymore. I guess the fight is over. Adam, don't tell me you're dead. Terry thought to himself. Ryan stood up from the bench and slowly approached Terry. It's time. Let's die now, all right. You haven't guaranteed that Adam is dead yet. Terry said with a pale face. Shouldn't you go check out his corpse or something? He is dead. Ryan said sternly. Renard attacked him. There's no way he leaves him alive after that. Terry gritted his teeth and tightened his grip on the poison flask. Don't move. He shouted. You've got feelings and thoughts, don't you? Don't you desire to live? The clones have a simple purpose. Ryan said. I've resigned myself to death ever since I was born. Why are you still listening to your creator? Terry asked. Your job here is done. Just leave and go have a proper life. Oh, but my job is not done. Ryan said and pointed at him. I still have to kill you. Jay, just listen to me. Terry pleaded, hoping to reason with Ryan before it was too late. Don't you want to travel the new world and go to new places? Don't you want to experience everything life has to offer? Ryan smiled and spread his arms wide as if he were accepting a hug. I have already lived for 5 years. That's longer than any clone could ask for. So, you are satisfied with that? Terry asked. Oh, yes. Ryan chuckled. Once I die, I'll be part of the Creator once more. That's the greatest bliss I could ask for. You are. Terry shook his head. Very sad existence. You don't understand. Ryan said. You don't have a purpose. You just exist. Fine. Terry looked at the flask of the poison and sadly smiled. Let's die then. Ryan and his secondary clone started praying to their creator. Terry closed his eyes and went into a throwing motion. As he was about to throw the flask to the ground, the gym door exploded from its hinges. The 3 heads turned to the door. A sword flew from there and stabbed through Ryan's chest before he had even a chance to look at the person who threw it. The second Ryan reacted and jumped towards the door, but then 2 wings stabbed through his chest and lifted him high into the air before smashing him into the ground with incredible force. Then, through the door, an injured-looking young man walked in, a limp in his step. Terry's eyes slowly opened wide. Adam. Adam wiped the blood off his lips as he approached Ryan, anger flashing in his eyes. That's impossible. Ryan screamed and tried to pull the sword from his chest but was unsuccessful as it was stuck between his ribs. Adam, are you all right? Terry asked and was about to drop the flask, but then remembered that it was very poisonous and stored it gently back in his inventory. Yeah, what about you? Adam asked. Surviving. Terry said and looked deeply at him. He couldn't believe his eyes. While he had a lot of faith in Adam's capabilities, he never expected him to survive Renard. What happened to Renard? Ryan asked in anger. How did you survive? He is dead, as will you. Adam said, grabbed him by the throat, and slammed him into the wall. Who sent you? What the fuck? Ryan's face paled. You killed Renard? You definitely cannot be left alive. With his right hand, he pulled out a hidden switchblade from his belt and swung it down at Adam, but he simply slapped the blade away with ease. The switchblade slipped off his hands and landed harmlessly on the ground. The second Ryan's gaze landed on the switchblade, and he rushed at it with his bleeding chest, but then Adam's wings cut through his throat, leaving him headless. Thump! The second Ryan collapsed on the ground and vanished without a sound. Wait, Adam! Terry walked over to him. He is a clone, sent by someone he calls the Creator. A clone? Adam looked into Ryan's eyes. So, when this clone dies, whoever created him will receive these memories. Exactly. Terry said. How did you know? I have known a few people that had cloning skills, but it's rarely this advanced. So it will be easy to find out who the Creator is. Terry asked hopefully. Not necessarily. Adam said. Those with cloning skills are keeping themselves hidden. They don't want to reveal something as powerful as this, especially because these clones have a mind of their own. Yet. Ryan chuckled. You'll never find out who my Creator is. When he receives these memories, he'll come to finish you off by himself. So, it is him. Adam scoffed. Come on, reveal more about him, you bastard. Twee. Ryan spat in his face. Come on, kill me and go hide like a cockroach you are. Adam, what shall we do? Terry asked. Leave him alive so his Creator doesn't get the memories. At that moment, he remembered something. Ah, right. That second Ryan, will his memories get sent to the Creator as well? No, Adam said. He was nothing but Ryan's clone, so those memories got sent to Ryan. Wait, the Creator's clones also have the cloning ability? Terry asked in shock. That's overpowered as fuck. Yes, this Creator must be very powerful, Adam said. Yes, he is, and when he arrives here, this floor and everyone here will burn. Ryan laughed like a madman. I don't think so. Adam smiled. I don't believe your Creator wants to reveal himself. I don't think he'll be coming. Even if he doesn't, he'll send one of his stronger clones. Ryan grinned. My brothers are much stronger than I am. I have merely Order Giver's level of power. That's why, your Creator made you weak so you can hide better among others as your strength wouldn't be detected by teachers and so that when you eventually get caught, it wouldn't be easy to find out who the Creator is. No, he won't send anyone. Adam said. Because this Creator of yours isn't a fool. Why would he risk another failure by his clones? I know quite a bit about cloning myself, wanna hear? Ryan frowned. The weaker the clones, more different they look from their Creator. That's why, your Creator made you weak so you can hide better among others as your strength wouldn't be detected by teachers and so that when you eventually get caught, it wouldn't be easy to find out who the Creator is. The opposite goes to the powerful clones. They look more similar to the Creator, and your Creator knows that to kill me, he'll need to send more powerful clones, and if they fail to kill me, I will know what the Creator looks like. Ryan's face paled at the realization. Adam looked into his eyes and spoke directly to the Creator. I don't know who you're. There's no need to come after me. Don't listen to him, my Creator. Ryan screamed. Avenge me. Adam pulled out the sword from his chest and beheaded him with a quick swing. The head rolled down on the ground, and instantly afterwards, Ryan disappeared into thin air. It's over. Terry collapsed on the ground and breathed heavily. Oh my god, that was scary. n/o/vel/b/in.c//om. It ain't over. Adam said. We'll need to leave. Now. Why? Terry asked in a slight panic. I just killed the headmaster. Adam said. It isn't hard for the teachers to find out about what I did, and when they do, she'll kill me. Who? Bertha. Adam said. She is crazy in love with Renard, and she'll go search for Renard when he has been gone for some time. We need to leave this floor now. Alright. Chapter 198, The Island. Somewhere in the New World. With curtains drawn to shield the sunlight, a shadow of a man was sitting in a dimly lit room at a plain wooden table. His hands were placed against his chin, allowing his head to rest on his hands as he stared ahead. Just moments ago, he received a flurry of new memories. It meant that one of his clones died somewhere in this vast world. After understanding every piece of new memory, it was clear whose memories those were. Ryan, his voice was emotionless. A failure. The door then opened, and a butler outfit-wearing man stood there, holding a white rose in his hand, its petals gently falling to the ground. "Sir, one of the white roses is dying," he said. "Did a clone die?" "A clone of acting, Ryan," the man crossed his legs. "I am angry, beyond belief." The butler placed his hand on his chest and bowed. "I am more than willing to avenge my brother's death." "I am not angry at the killer," the man said. "I am angry at Ryan. He revealed my existence. It was too premature." "The killer found out your identity?" the butler asked. "More reasons to burn down the place he is hiding at." "If I wanted your opinion, I would have asked for it," the man snapped. The butler panicked and knelt on the ground. "It wasn't my intention to be rude, sir. And no, he doesn't know who I am. However, he knows that I exist, and that's all that matters for now." Crack! At that moment, something shattered into a million pieces in the outside hallway. Then, some hurried voices of the servants came from behind the door. "Sigh!" The man pinched his glabella and shouted. "Stop moving!" With a single command, hundreds of people froze inside the residence, looking like mannequins in a store display. They were all his clones, over 100 of them. The butler wasn't immune to the command, and he was frozen in place as well. Finally, peace and quiet. The man stood up and walked over to the curtained window, then peeked outside into the bustling city of the Imperium. "You've played your cards well, Adam, yet you also do have weaknesses." With a discreet smile, he turned around and headed out of the room. "Move." A single word, yet a powerful command, reverberated throughout the residence, and all the 100 clones began moving, continuing their lives as if nothing had happened. At the Elder Tree Institute, Adam and Terry rushed down the woody corridor. N/O/vel/b//in.c//om. After a short while, they arrived at the exit and saw that its door was missing. It seemed to have been blasted into pieces. "What happened to the door?" Terry asked. "It was locked, so I had to do something to get back to the institute," Adam said. "Its door was made out of elder tree wood. It isn't easy to destroy," Terry said with a wry smile. "You got that right," Adam said, and then his beautiful wings sprouted from his back. Then, he grabbed Terry from the back of his shirt and started flying towards the far end of the 25th floor. While hanging from the hand, Terry saw the vast destruction of the forest. The trees had been toppled over, the ground was scorched, and the dark clouds in the sky hadn't fully dispersed yet either. "How did you survive all that?" Terry wondered out loud, and he felt like he couldn't ever reach such a level of strength. Without answering, the wings carried them to the end of the floor, and there they found the door that led to the new world. They landed right in front of it. It looked like the door was just standing there without anything to hold it. If one opened it, one would think that there was nothing on the other side. However, after further inspection, it was clear that this was where the floor ended. At the other side of the door, there was more of the forests and mountains, but when Terry touched at the side of the door, it felt like he was touching a wall and that those forests and mountains were nothing but painted on. It was, however, such a vivid painting that everything looked real. "So, what happens when I walk through the door?" Terry asked. "Will I arrive on the new world?" "No," Adam said. "You've got to take the tutorial before the gods of that world allow you there, so I've heard. You'll get logged out when you step through, and when you log back in, it will be in the tutorial after you've registered for it, of course. I see. Terry looked back at the enormous elder tree. I am not sure whether I am ready. Can't I stay here? They'll notice my departure, and since you're my roommate, they'll interrogate you. Adam said. I can't say with certainty about what they'll do to you, but you're ready for the tutorial. You think so? Terry asked in hesitation. I couldn't do anything against Ryan except run away. I think I am not ready. Adam opened the door, and there was nothing except an empty void beyond it. The tutorial is easy, he said. Your teachers have been preparing all of you for it, but they don't teach you one thing, the mentality. The mentality? Terry asked in curiosity. Since the students have been prepared for the tutorial, when it's finally time for it, they're nervous, as they don't want to fail after spending so much time to prepare for it. They also think it's difficult since so many fail it, but that's not the case. All you need to be is confident, and the tutorial is as easy as it gets. Is it really just that easy? Terry asked. Just be confident. Adam smiled and patted him on the back. Remember to wear warm clothes. Warm clothes. Without answering, Adam just pushed him through the door, and Terry's screams got cut short as he disappeared into the void. Adam stepped through the door, then turned around to catch a final look at the elder tree and then closed the door behind him, also disappearing into the void. The winds of winter came and went. It was already the time for the rainy season of the spring, the rain pouring down like a symphony of nature's tears. The waves of the blind sea crashed against the sharp rocks of a small island that jutted out of the water like a forgotten monument to some long-lost civilization. By the sharp rocks on the island, a cane-wielding old man sat under the shade of a crumbling stone archway, watching towards the ocean and at the storm that was raging some distance away. At that moment, from the storm, a single boat sailed through the crashing waves, and there was a man standing on it, paddling against the wind. Its one mast had collapsed as the result of the storm. However, with the one paddle, he managed to approach the island. A visitor. The old man muttered to himself as he watched the boat approach. A rare sight. As soon as the ship neared the island, the rain stopped mysteriously and the sun peeked from behind the clouds. The man removed his hat and looked at the island with a deep look. The island of the crying woman. Adam narrowed his eyes. The end of the third volume, Elder Tree Institute. Chapter 199, The Winged Angel. The fourth volume, The Winged Angel. Splash, splash, splash. Waves after waves came and splashed, covering the shore in the salt water and foam. The wind blew and the seagulls cried out in the sky. The small boat rocked back and forth as it stopped by the sharp rocks of the small island. After tying the boat to a nearby tree, Adam stepped out into the small road that led straight to the fallen rock structures. To his small surprise, there was an old man waiting for him, a cane in hand and a wide-brimmed hat on his head. "Hello, young traveler," the old man said. "How unfortunate of you to encounter that storm. A storm that's protecting this island, I assume," Adam said and took a seat on one of the rock formations next to the old man. "Oh, why do you think so?" the old man asked with an elderly smile. "This is the island of the crying woman, is it not?" Adam asked. "An island plagued by the curse of a woman's sorrowful spirit. You seem to know a lot." The old man chuckled. "You shouldn't have come here, after all, you're now trapped here." "Like you?" Adam asked. "Exactly," the old man said with a chuckle. "I accidentally sailed here 30 years ago, and I've been stuck ever since. The story stays the same as in the past life." Adam thought to himself. He is quest original, here to wait for a player to come and to end the curse. "You seem like a powerful young man, maybe you can end the curse," the old man said. "Oh, please tell me more," Adam said. "I'd hate to get stuck in here." 100 years ago, a ship wrecked near these shores, and on that board, there was a powerful witch who had been said to bear a curse of the unfortunate. That curse caused the shipwreck, and she ended up on this island while everyone else died. Haunted by the guilt, she was sitting in these same rock steps, day in and night out, with tears streaming down her face as she relived the tragic events over and over again. She also died, years later, to the starvation. Her corpse, swallowed by the island, is somewhere in here, and the curse is still living strong within her corpse. You'll have to find her corpse and destroy the curse. Ding, ding. As soon as the old man finished talking, 2 dings echoed deep inside Adam's mind. Rare quest acquired. Quest, Curse of the Crying Woman. Rank, B. Description, the island had swallowed the crying woman's corpse. You must find it, and then destroy the curse within. Time limit, 1 year. Reward. Now, go and destroy the curse, young traveler. Very well. Adam said. I have a favor to ask, however. What is it? The old man asked. Do you mind fixing my boat? Adam looked towards his boat with the mast broken from the middle. I still need to have a way to leave this island. I'll see what I can do. The old man said, and then asked with a raised eyebrow. Did you know that I used to be a shipwright? Oh, you're... Adam chuckled and stood up from the rock seat. Coincidence, just. Coincidence. The old man murmured and then walked over to the small boat. With a chuckle, Adam stepped into the depths of the forest and tried to remember the location of the corpse. In his past life, he was successful in doing this quest, but it took him a couple of weeks as it took him a long time to find the location of the corpse. Luckily for him now, he knew where it was. Right, it's been already a year since my regression. It felt like the time had flown by. After leaving the 25th floor behind, he'd been treasure hunting all around the new world, and had fully paid off the Z package. However, there was something in this island that he wanted still, and he planned to get it before going to Ebon Reach to reunite with his guild. During the past few months, he'd reached level 12 and had reached 2nd level in all of the 3 powers. While he was not that far from reaching 3rd level in magic and Kiryoku, his craft had changed from white to black. Its durability had increased greatly. With the 2nd level of Kiryoku, he can now sense auras and use that to dodge attacks. He can also accurately determine the opponent's level of strength. As he stepped deeper into the forest, he suddenly stopped and looked around him. This place looked familiar as the trees around him made a perfect circle. It was like the forest was telling him that this was the correct place. His gaze went down to the ground, and with a smile, he used Ground King and smashed through the ground. After a short fall, he landed in a dark chamber that was filled with blue roses. The scent of the flowers was overpowering but strangely comforting at the same time. At the center of the flowers, there was a person lying on a stone pedestal, seemingly dead with a flower bouquet in her hands. She seemed holy and ethereal, like a goddess frozen in time. A silver dress draped over her delicate figure, and her long hair cascaded down her back in waves. She had rosy red lips, blushing cheeks, and closed eyes that seemed to be in eternal slumber. It didn't look like she was dead and was merely sleeping like a sleeping beauty. As Adam approached the stone pedestal, he noticed that there was one blue rose missing from the bouquet. He picked up one of the blue roses and placed it on the bouquet. The wind was instantly filled with a sweet, floral scent. It definitely did something. At that moment, a ghostly figure sat down on top of his shoulder, her hair gently flowing in the breeze. She didn't weigh anything, like a feather, and her eyes were the color of the ocean on a calm summer day. The ghost looked just like the beautiful woman on the stone pedestal, but more ghostly, as if she wasn't real, but he could still feel her sitting on his shoulder. The crying woman, I assume? Adam asked as he looked at her beautiful face, her eyes filled with sadness and despair. You've come to free me. She didn't speak a word, but her thoughts were loud and clear in Adam's mind. I did, Adam said. Finally, she smiled a smile that could light up the darkest of rooms. Thank you. What do you want to do? Adam asked. Leave this island. She nodded. Yes, sail away. Adam nodded. Then, from his backs, wings emerged that were so beautiful and majestic that they took her breath away. The winged angel, are you? Nov, L, B / JNN. No, just a human. He said, and then took flight, soaring into the sky with grace and power. She wrapped her arms around his neck, exclaiming as she looked towards the sun. With tears flying out of her eyes, she showed a final smile of bliss and slowly vanished from his shoulder, her final words whispering into his mind. Thank you, Angel. Chapter 200, Scarless. Bang, bang, bang. The hammer landed against the wooden mast of the small boat, slowly fixing it back into place. The old man, using the back of his hand, wiped the sweat off his brows. At that moment, he heard footsteps coming behind him, and when he turned around, to his surprise, the young man had already returned. Oh, you're back? The old man asked. Don't be discouraged if you couldn't find her corpse right away. Oh, I found it. Adam said and showed a blue rose in his hand. The curse is gone, and she has been put to rest. The old man's eyes widened in surprise, and he took the blue rose gently, looking at its cold petals with tears streaming down his face. To those who didn't know what was going on, it would look weird for the old man to cry over the blue rose, but Adam knew what exactly was going on. Sorry about my outburst. The old man said and wiped his tears. You found the blue rose with her. They surrounded her sleeping place. Adam said. I suppose these blue roses mean something to you. Yes, they do. The old man sat down on the boat. The crying woman was my wife. I came here to look for her, but I never did, as if the island didn't want me to find her. These blue roses. I gave her a bouquet of blue roses every year on her birthday. It has been said that those who are killed by a curse will be surrounded by things that they remembered fondly in life. It makes my heart happy that she didn't forget me. There is a theory that the islands of the Blind Sea have a consciousness of their own. Adam said while looking around. Maybe this island felt lonely, so it didn't allow you to find her because it needed company, and without the curse, no one would stay here. Or because the island knew that I wouldn't be able to kill the curse. The old man said with a sad smile. After all, killing the curse would mean killing my wife. Perhaps so. Adam said and looked at the small boat, already fixed. Oh, you already fixed it? Yeah, I work fast. The old man said and looked over to the ocean, where the storm was calming down. Now it is the best time to leave. Are you coming with me? Adam asked and took a seat on the boat. No, I don't think so. The old man looked at the blue rose. This is where I belong. Very well. Adam nodded. However, before you leave, have this. The old man walked over to him and handed him a small, silver chest. A chest. Adam smiled and said. What's inside? It's magical chest. The old man said. There are thousands of things you can get from it, but it depends on your luck. If your luck is bad, you might get a dirty boot, but if you are lucky, you might get a treasure beyond your wildest dreams. It's like spinning a lottery wheel. Adam thought and put the chest inside his inventory. However, I am not going to use it yet. I have ways to increase my odds. I don't want to open it just to completely rely on luck. I'll have to boost my luck first. Good luck in your way back, young traveler. The old man said and gently pushed the boat away from the shore. The white sails billowed in the wind as the boat started to sail away. With strong wind carrying the boat away, the island soon vanished from sight. New World, Ebon Reach. The carriages wheeled down the cobblestone roads as they entered the city through the archway of the grand stone gate. Rough-faced, battle-hardened mercenaries filled the streets, not a single one of them was void of scars or evidence of past combat. If one wanted to become strong and respected in Ebon Reach, they would need to prove their worth through battle. It didn't matter how high their rank was, the strength in the battle was all that mattered. After all, there were mercenaries that didn't actually know how to fight against fellow players, so they weren't thought highly of in these streets. In that sense, it was the most disrespectful city of the five. In this region, not even King Moriarty had any say, as in the eyes of these scar-faced mercenaries, he was nothing but a baby-faced royalty hiding behind his big walls. Through the stone archway, people continued to swarm in, and among them, a tall-figured young man looked around the city as if it were his first time here. It's been a long time since I've been here. Adam thought. Whenever he visited the Ebon Reach, he would usually spend a few days there to gather supplies before going beyond the wall. Now, where are the Crimson Hounds located? Adam followed the walking pedestrians until he came across one of the stores that seemed to be selling maps. In the store steps, there was a thin-haired man talking with a few friends of his, blocking the entrance to the store. It looked like he was the owner of the establishment. "Excuse me, sir, do you know where the Crimson Hounds are?" Adam approached them, hoping to get some directions. It shouldn't be too hard for them to know, as Ebon Reach was the smallest city alongside Driftwood. While Dawnwatch was enormous and those who had lived there their entire lives wouldn't know every street, Ebon Reach was different. It was a small, tight-knit community where everyone knew everyone else's business. The thin-haired man looked annoyed and said, "You think the information is free, hey, pretty boy?" In his and his friend's eyes, Adam looked like a rookie mercenary who wouldn't be able to survive 5 minutes outside the wall. "I am willing to pay, if that's the case," Adam said. "Ha!" The thin-haired man stopped leaning against the doorway and said, "I don't feel like taking money from Scarless, let alone talking to one." "You know what Scarless is, boy?" one of his friends asked. "Enlighten me," Adam said with a smile. N/O/vel/b/in.c//om. The man grinned, showing his yellowish teeth. "Scarless are the bottom of the hierarchy here, boy. So, one has to have scars to gain respect here?" Adam asked. "Exactly," the thin-haired man said. "Now, get out of my face, Scarless." "But, I do have scars, want to see?" Adam asked. "Some paper cut doesn't cut it, boy, it has to be a proper scar made by steel and blood." Adam lifted his shirt to reveal a hideously long scar around his left waist. It was unclear what could have caused it, but the sight could make weak-hearted faint. However, Adam was proud of the scar and wore it as a badge of honor. It also looked quite amazing beside his chiseled abs, making him even more attractive to those who were close enough to catch a glimpse. "What an amazing scar!" the thin-haired man exclaimed alongside his friends. They examined the scar with round, thrilled expressions. They looked like scar fanatics, obsessing over every detail and whispering excitedly to each other about what could have caused it. "How did you get this amazing scar?" they asked. It came from his fight against Renard, but it was quite a sensitive topic, so he didn't want to spread it around. Adam hid the scar under his shirt to the disappointment of others. "From someone I was lucky enough to kill," Adam said with a chuckle. "Is this scar enough to get directions?" "Of course, haha." The thin-haired man's attitude had completely changed. "They're just a few blocks down that way." "Thank you, I appreciate." He bid them farewell and then headed in the direction the man had pointed. He was pretty excited to return to his guild, and he was wondering how they were doing in Ebon Reach's competitive environment.